Okay, hi everyone. So I know it's been a while since the last class, and just a lot of different changes happening for me, and I am doing a video this time about the garden plan for this year for my parents. And I asked them for a list of what they wanted to plant, and of course then what they wanted to eat. And what the uses of them, of that thing was for. So just a rough draft of what the video is. I'm going to go over what they provided, and then looked at how much space that I had to work with in their garden, and what they will need to seed in the greenhouse, how much they will need to seed, and how many plantings they will need to have of different crops according to what the use that they want for that crop. So I'm going to show y'all how I did that, so then you can do the same in the space that you have available, whether it be a small garden plot at a community garden where I started community garden plots, and then I went to organic farming and had a lot of space. But it all has to do with, what you like. So watch the other videos if you're thinking about starting a garden and wanting to more help on garden planning. I have a class video about that. You can also watch any of the videos that out at my parents' when we started their garden, and that was 2 years ago now. Kind of bad with timing, but so this year is 2026, and this will be the second year that they will be planting. And I always say that it takes about 3 years to really understand your garden and the soil that you're working in, the seasons, all that. I say it takes 3 years. Just the first year is practice. The second year is you want to kind of hone in what you want to grow and be more specific about calculating and documenting if your calculations were correct, and then also according to like what you want to do with it. So do you want to eat it fresh? Do you want to freeze some of it? Do you want to can some of it? I love juicing, so I would factor in the juicing some of it, right? Do you want to have it just for you, or do you want to be able to grow food for a large family or small family, just multiple people, or give it away to your neighbors, things like that, right? So all those are different factors that, like year 2, you put into play a little more in doing the calculations. And then year 3 is that you start to really hone in how much use that you're getting out of each thing. Like sometimes you think, oh, well, I need more, let's say squash or onions for over the winter, right? You want to grow a lot during the summer and then be able to save stuff for over winter, whether that's can or freeze some of it or eat it fresh. Like winter squash, you can save and you can eat it throughout the winter. Onions, storage onions, you can grow and they will last all through the winter. You can eat the onions all through the winter. But let's say you really didn't go through everything that you wanted to go through or thought you were going to go through, right? So you go, okay, actually I don't need to dedicate that much space to growing onions or winter squash. And I actually used up all of my, let's say, potatoes, because that's another thing that you can have for storage all through the winter, right? And I used all my potatoes up a lot faster than I thought. Well, this next year, the third year, is where you hone in and you go, okay, I'm going to dedicate more space to potatoes than I am to the winter squash and the onions. And so you just start to really hone in exactly how much you need and for the space that you have, and understanding the soil and understanding the seasons of where you're growing better. So without further ado, let's get into all of the mock-ups here that I have and why I did those. And this is, as I said, the second year that my parents are planting, so it's not their like honing in year, but it is their first year in really trying to grow everything that they want for the space that they have. Last year we didn't have much time because we had winter crop, cover crop that was going to be killed off, and then we planted. So being in zone 5A, it's a very short growing season. And even though they started things in their greenhouse, they really didn't have a whole lot of time to have things grow, and they didn't use all the space because one area was done cover cropping and killed off, and the other area was still the cover crop was still trying to be killed off. So, and they didn't even get to plant in the second half of their garden last year, except for the very end where we tried to do broccoli and carrots way late. It was an experiment. We'll see how that turns out. We're in a snowstorm again, so March, was it 15th, and another snowstorm. So who knows when we'll be able to get into the ground. But yeah, seeded carrots and broccoli. Yes, I direct seeded broccoli. Did not transplant broccoli. Way late in like September something. I think it was right around Labor Day. And that's very late for this zone. So as I said, it's an experiment. We'll see what happens come spring, whenever that might happen. But my dad, he did spinach in September, and that came up. So he was able to harvest, and they were able to eat spinach in the area that was, winter cover cropped in, that they couldn't really grow in for a long time. Okay, let's get into it. All right, let's do it. Okay, so first, I wanted to show y'all everything that the list, okay? So the list that we have, I figured out there's 5 beds. There are some beds that are going to be, they're going to be annuals. So these are they're going to be perennials. So these are all the annuals. I don't know why I get those terms mixed up, but I always do. So these are the beds that are going to be rotating. And then there's other beds where fig trees and raspberry bushes, asparagus, blueberries, and strawberries. So those are already dedicated. And then there's already garlic planted out in the garden. So we have several beds that are occupied, is what I'm getting at here. So we have 5 beds that are open for planting. And then they sent me a list. I asked them what they wanted to plant and what they wanted to use for freezing, canning, or both. So then I went through their list, and I wanted to show you, let's see if I can do this better. Maybe this is better. Okay, so I wanted to show y'all. Okay, so the beds are 40 feet by 3 feet, and I just converted that into inches because a lot of things with plants, you need to know how much space everything needs in inches. And so this is what I wanted to know, if it had 1 planting or 2. So I wrote everything down that had fresh only, meaning just 1 planting, 1 use. These are 2 uses, right? And then we come down here and we only have 2 crops that they have 3 uses for. Okay. And then my next thing that I wanted to know was how many plantings, not just based upon the use, but based upon the space that everything needed, and how many days till harvest. Because if you have something that, okay, so let's take beets for example. I only said one planting even though it has 50 days because I know my parents don't really like beets. I mean, they'll eat them, and my mom actually makes a really good chocolate beet cake. Super fantastic, very moist and delicious. And you wouldn't know it has beets in it. But anyways, they don't use beets a whole lot for stuff, and they only wanted one thing. So I just said one planting, even though it only has 50 days from seed to harvest. Well, so I'm just saying this because not everything that is long-term, like pumpkins, 80 to 100 days, well, we can only get one planting in because it takes so long, right? For here in this zone 5A. Whereas if we really wanted to do more planting of beets, we totally could. Absolutely, totally could, but it was just because they don't have a high appetite for beets, let's say. Then we're just going to do one planting. So anyways, I broke down everything based upon how many, like, continuous harvest of collards and rainbow chard. Awesome. Like, that's why you only need the one planting. So some things you'll only need one because it's only one use, but also because of the time that you have. It's just like you can only do one. So going down the list here, celery is one because of how many days it takes. You could do multiple plantings if you staggered the plantings really close to each other. But I'm just going to ask them if they just want to do one planting, and it's less for them to manage. It's just easier. So instead of doing really close together staggered plantings, meaning like you start some seeds in the greenhouse now, and then you start some in June, right? And then you would be able to have two plantings. If you hear any noise outside, it is a snowblower. As I'm saying this, we are getting a lot of snow. So let's see. Asparagus takes 2 years before you can harvest it, so it won't be ready. So the year that it will be ready, because we planted some in 25, will be 2027. And then they're planting some more because not all of those plantings took. So some of the asparagus just didn't come up. So they're going to plant some this year in 26, so it won't be ready till 28. Tomatoes are 100 days, one planting. And this is where we get into two plantings, even though it only has one use, is the lettuce and the spinach, which they like colder temperatures, so spring and fall. Then we move down to carrots. You can keep planting carrots, harvest them, seed them again, harvest them, seed them again. And I would say the last day for here, like when I was farming and I was doing multiple plantings of carrots, the last I did was in August, and then would seed a ton of carrots and harvest them all the way till the end of the season. Anyways, so sweet peppers, those are longer time, and so one, even though they have multiple uses. So if they have multiple uses, this is another tip. but longer days from seed to harvest, and you have a short season, so you can only do one planting, then you know that you're going to need more space. Okay. Zucchini, you can continuously harvest zucchini. It produces a lot. So one planting is totally enough. And also, I would say not very many plants, right? And we'll get to that too. Onions, they want to be able to have a lot of, you can do, actually I said 2 plantings because I'll show you in the diagram of the beds why the 2 plantings of onions make sense, even if it's 100 days. And that is just, as I said, like we could do with celery, but we're going to seed quite a few, plant what we can. Those little seedlings are still going to continue to grow, and you just plant those onions where you have space, slash seed another cell trays, open flat trays, and rows of open flat trays of onions, so that when you go to harvest something in the field, wherever it may be, you can plant that onion in the space that you harvested it. So long story short, just like if you want to harvest some lettuce and plant onions in that space, and you're not going to plant lettuce right away after you harvest it. Why? Well, because it's not going to grow well, because it's like cooler temperatures. So you put the onions in there. So that's just an example of, you have onion seedlings ready for when you harvest something and it can go out. All right, so we go down the line. Onions, winter squash, potatoes, cauliflower, 2 plantings, broccoli, 2 plantings, peas, 2 plantings, okra, 1. And then the hot peppers, we got 1. And green beans, 2 plantings, corn, 1 planting. So that's the list. Then I go to the next deal. We had 5 rows, right? So I broke everything up into the rows after I wrote down how many plantings and days seed to harvest and what the uses were, right? So now I want to break up into where is everything going to go out in the field, okay? And just see if we've got enough space, how much space we have for everything. And then I'm also thinking about companion planting, what grows well together. Squash, peppers, onions grow great together. So I'm doing winter squash with the pumpkins. Hot and sweet peppers, because remember we got 40 feet here, so it can hold multiple different crops in one. This is a row, 3 rows in one bed. So one bed, 1, 2, 3 rows. And this is the same. We've got 1, 2, 3 rows in one bed. Bed number 2. Bed number 3. So I wrote over here split, because we're doing spinach, lettuce, beets, spinach, lettuce. And remember I said you could do onions in here if you wanted. Totally fine. And this is a lot of space for spinach and lettuce, right? So also I'm thinking of herbs. Do they want herbs? They grew cucumbers last year. That's why I was like, cucumbers, question mark, but that wasn't on the list. Herbs, question mark, because they didn't put it on the list, but they like cilantro. They like basil and parsley. Thyme, I'm not sure. But, why not have some space for herbs? Actually, this is where it would be great. As I said, zucchini, you don't need that many plants. Carrots, you could totally do a lot of carrots in that space. And why not leave some room for herbs here, or here. So a lot of space that you could put herbs in around each of these different crops here in bed number 3. So then we're going to bed number 4. And we're splitting this up between broccoli, cauliflower, and celery. So celery is just going to be at the end portion of the bed. And then broccoli and cauliflower are going to be over here. And there's going to be 2 plantings of that. So when it's harvested, you get ready in the greenhouse. You start the next transplants, seeds. You seed in the greenhouse, and then you transplant out in the field for both plantings of broccoli and cauliflower here in zone 5, because very, very short growing season. Corn takes all season, needs a whole row. Potatoes, they need a lot of space. And so we only have 2 rows in this one bed. And then I said onions can also go with lettuce, which totally, yes, lettuce, herbs, onions, they can all grow very well together. I'm not worried about the companion planting of any of those. Adding onions to that bed number 3. Adding onions in this bed, totally fine. They would grow well with any of these, companion planting wise. And so if you want to just look at again what we have, screenshot if you like, that we're working with companion planting all these things growing together, and they grow well together companion planting wise. And we're thinking about spacing and the time and the use. Time, use, spacing, planting, all that good stuff. So now we're getting into the greenhouse. And how do we know what we need to seed for the space that we have? Okay. All right, we can do this. So I just converted, like I said, it's easier to do inches. And I'm thinking about how many plants, then how many seeds, right? Well, I love to do 30% more than expected, because you never know if the seed will not germinate. And then if you have more plants and you kind of squish your plants together, I think that's fine if you have really great soil. So that's why I said 40 to 26, right? And we're taking into consideration the spacing is somewhere in there. So we come out with 35 plants if we do 8, 8, 8, 8, and 3. And so doing a variety of winter squashes, acorn, spaghetti, delicata, butternut, and then 3 pumpkins. Like, who needs that many pumpkins? I don't know. They didn't make any pumpkin pie with their pumpkins. They just decorated them, which is totally fun. And why not have some pumpkins? But you don't need 8 pumpkins, and you know what I mean? And they want to be able to save all of these for over winter. So that's why you need more of the winter squash than the pumpkin. And 50 cell tray is the size of the seed tray that they are going to seed. 10 of each of these, 5 cells each of these. So in turn, that means that they're going to have way more if all of them come up. But this is what they are going to plant, 35. So even if they have excess, say there's 45 then total, right? 45 plants, well, just plant 35, okay? And they label all of them so then they know, instead of planting, like say, whoops, we only planted 3 acorns and we did 8 pumpkins. No, they'll label them, so it'll be fine. Okay, and then we go down to the peppers. And if I needed a reference back, I can always go back to the, where is it? Beds, when I'm looking at the beds. And I'm looking at Where is the bed? Here we go. I'm looking at the bed and I'm going by each bed here, right? So this is the first one, and that's why we're going everything in that bed and by the order. So we have this on the outside, this on the inside, and this on the outside of the bed. 1, 2, 3 rows. Okay. And then we've got the hot sweet peppers. So I did the same. I just did little notes on each one. I didn't continue to show that in each row as we go forward, but I think I did for each bed. Pretty sure. Oh, bed number 3, I didn't do it. Oh, I did. Okay, but they can always go back and look. So this is the same. It's the same routine, right? I'm figuring out how many plants. We have quite a few, but a lot of times hot and sweet peppers are they're a hit or miss here in Zone 5A. So having a lot of plants is okay because sometimes the plants have a really hard time just taking off because it's not hot enough. Even though people in Minnesota say it gets hot here, it does not get hot here. It gets, warm-ish and humid, but it does not get hot. So we've got a growing area that peppers just need more heat. So they take a long time and some of the plants just don't produce very well. So we're just taking that into consideration. For the seed trays, we're going to do 20. So we're doing 20 of hot, 20 of sweet in the 50 cell tray. Onions, we're using an open flat tray, and I said 5 rows. Might be way more than 250, but I figured about 250 onions could totally get out of that one row. Slash, if we have other areas such as with the bed that has the chard and the collard greens, the what else does it have? Spinach, lettuce, beets, all that bed where you're rotating a lot, we could totally fit some onions in there because they are great companion plants for that. Okay, tomatoes. So same deal. I'm going through how many seeds based upon the spacing that the plant needs, and also doing the 30% crop loss. So we're doing 50 cell trays and we're doing 35 cells plantings. And I said you can do a lot of different varieties because I don't know what kind of varieties of tomatoes that they want, but I would suggest doing a lot of different varieties if you want heirlooms, Romas, cherry tomatoes, a lot of different kinds of tomatoes. Okra, this is another one where normally it'd be like, why do you want a whole row of okra? Well, because they have multiple uses that they want to use the okra for. They say they want to freeze it and they want to eat it fresh. I love canned okra, meaning like pickled okra. So that's what I would use it for, but like if I wanted extra to save it. And okra is one of those things that loves the heat, but Minnesota doesn't get hot, so it sometimes does not produce very well or actually very long. Now it's a crop that just generates over and over and over. It has the most beautiful flowers, by the way. And it just, though, produces over and over and over. And although it does produce quite rapidly and you have to harvest it like you don't want it to get very big, so you have to pay attention to it and harvest whenever you have an okra that's ready. It does not continue to produce for very long, depending upon how warm it is. So once it starts cooling off, it really slows down and it does not produce. So anyways, we got that one. The peas and the green beans, they're going to direct seed. And I said, half a row of peas, half a row of green beans. And then after those are harvested, do the second planting in the same spot by July 12th. And that'll give them enough days of heat that they can produce before the end of the season. Spinach, spring and fall, because it likes cooler weather. Second planting, I said by August 9th. It could be even later, because I know my dad did a planting of spinach last year. And I thought that was in September. So let me write that down here. Where's my pen at? September 9th, let's say. Okay. So second planting in between there. The beets, those are going to be direct seeded. Why not? It's just easier. Transplanted beets work a hell of a lot better, y'all, if your soil is compacted. If you have compacted soil, which I did when I was farming, and I did direct beets the first year and they did pretty well, but then it just seemed like I just wanted to try it, and I transplanted beets in my third year because the second year they just did not produce very well. And so I transplanted beets in compacted soil when I was farming on the third year and the fourth year, but tried it for the first time the third year, and it was miraculous. They just did amazing. So, but my parents do not have compacted soil, so they will not have a problem with direct seed. Rainbow chard and collard greens. This is for a 72 cell tray. 20 of each, and they just keep producing over and over and over. And then I said, open flat tray for if you want to do any herbs and transplant those in the same area that you have the rainbow chard and the collards. This is just if they want. I'm just thinking that they have so much space for rainbow chard and collards and really, everything that's going to produce out there, they're going to get enough of. So I don't have like an inkling that they should be putting pumpkins. They should be putting pumpkins in with it. Like, they'll have enough space. They don't need to cram or use space that they had for one thing over here and another. They're going to have totally enough. If we did want to have something else in this row, it could totally work out as well. But we have enough space for everything, so we don't need to move one crop into here. Okay, so zucchini, as I said, we only need 5 cells, really. I mean, we really don't even need that many, but who knows if some just don't produce. I mean, sometimes plants die and there's really no rhyme or reason to it, but 2 people, actually, I would recommend 2 zucchini plants at the max. But they want to freeze some, and I don't know how much they want to freeze, so that's why they get more plants. And I'm sure that they'll share some with their neighbors and family and stuff, so I think 5 will be totally enough for them. And then carrots. I definitely want to direct seed carrots and do the second by August 9th. So May is the first planting, August is the second planting. And then here we go on to bed number 4. So bed number 4, we've got broccoli, cauliflower, and the celery. And yeah, so I'm doing it the same, where we're doing how many 40 seeded in 50 cell tray. So almost a whole tray for each planting. You want the second planting for the broccoli is by July 4th. Why is that? Well, because they take longer to grow, and so it's just better to start these even earlier. And I start those in the greenhouse as well, to be transplanted out in the field later. And then we've got the celery, and remember we're doing 3/4 is going to be broccoli in one row, cauliflower in the other, and then the other 1/4 is celery. So this is also transplanted because it takes a long time to grow. And then the corn, the bed 5, corn and potatoes. So yeah, they both need a lot of space. The most space that they need is in between. Like potatoes just need a lot of space between the next row. So I would plant corn, have a lot of space in between, and then the potatoes. And they also, got to mound the potatoes. And when you buy potatoes at the store, I would make sure they're organic, because I don't know if inorganic potatoes that you buy are also bred to not reproduce. I have no idea. So I've always bought potatoes organic at the store, and when they start producing eyes, the little sprouts coming out, producing the eyes, you chop them up where you have at least 3 eyes in one of the chopped pieces, and that's what you plant in the field. So there we go. That is the plan. So this is the greenhouse plan. Because we have all the seed trays and how many seeds. And then we have the bed planting guide here. We have the bed planting guide. And we have a use list. And how many days from seed to harvest. And, what it's going to be used for. How many plantings. So there you go. I hope that was helpful, y'all. That's how I put everything together. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right. Yes, as I said, I hope that was helpful for everyone. And please ask any questions if you have any questions. And we'll see how things go. All this info is going off to my parents. And then they can start seeding in the greenhouse and getting ready for their growing season. And I hope you're getting ready for your growing season and getting excited about it. And if you want to watch any of the other previous videos, I did some on planting a garden. And we have been documenting the whole time of my parents growing and starting their garden. And it's just in hopes that it really helps other people to grow their own food. And this series of videos of the classroom is just a way to break down things that I don't think other people are showing in videos that I haven't seen anyways. Really in a finer detail of how I come up with the numbers of what to plant and the spacing and what it's planted for. All these different factors that come into play in growing food that sometimes it's just not talked about. But I remember some people when I was at farmer's market, and they had talked about some things just not growing and why was that, and I tried to help them brainstorm that, but also people that grew too much of stuff. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, I would not have planted, like I just remember one person planted 6 zucchini plants, and it was just her and her partner, and I was like, yeah, that's probably too much for 2 people. Like, I would say 2 plants of zucchini is totally enough. But it's just not talked about that zucchini plants just continue to produce, and you harvest and the plant just keeps producing more. And it produces, 6 zucchini at a time per plant. So then you've got 12 zucchini that are ready to eat right then. And then a week later, you got 12 more. So it's just a crop that produces very well and very fast, and just continues throughout the season. So it's really not talked about, and that's why I did my parents. I did theirs with 5, which I'm like, that's probably too many, but they also wanted to freeze it, and I know they like to give a lot away, so that's the only reason that I had put 5 down for them. And in case of crop loss, which I don't know why they would have crop loss, but sometimes that happens for no reason at all. So anyways, I hope this was helpful, and please look in the guide down below in the description. I also put all the other videos that we've done from the start of the garden all the way through the last video, which was all about ordering seeds. And they've already ordered all their seeds. They don't need to order anymore. But this is where actually I would recommend, if you plan out your garden and you don't have any seeds, order your seeds, plan out your garden, and then you order your seeds. And I love High Mowing. Really awesome. Give them a call. If you, let's see if they have their number on here. Oh, here we go. Let's cover up my info. But there we go. It's the number for High Mowing. Give them a call. Johnny's. Here's a seed for Johnny's. Really good too. And really awesome folks there. They can help you out. They love to help as well. Very knowledgeable in finding seed varieties that are good for your area, and any tips for trying to figure out seeds. But I did a video all about calculating how many seeds that you need as well. All right, so until the next one, I hope everyone has a fantastic spring, and maybe one day it will stop snowing and greenery will come out.